Alright, this is my helpful tool that I've created. The node tool that I decided to make is a procedural edge damage tool. This tool is best used to add damage to materials like brick or stone. My intention for designing it was that I wanted to make a tool that could be used in multiple projects and something that I probably would use in the future. Um, Creating randomized complex geometry for things like brick and stone can be very tedious to do by hand, so I thought that making a tool to do it for me would be very helpful. I got inspiration to make this tool from a pre-existing Blender tool that I found out about called One-Click Damage. It's a similar concept of creating procedural damage to meshes, but much more advanced than my tool is. Um, with my very basic understanding of how node tools work and how to create them, I feel pretty good about what I've made. To use the tool, you just need to add a simple mesh and apply it in object mode, which I will do. Um, There are a few values that I added to the group input to be able to add variation to the final result. Things like edge crease, edge softness, noise scale, intensity, and the seed. Messing around with some of those parameters can drastically change how the mesh will look in the end. For the basic structure of the node graph, starts with the group input where your base geometry enters the tool, and from there the geometry is fed into two branches, if you will. One of the branches feeds into a subdivision surface node and adds density to your mesh, and so that the displacement has enough geometry to work with, and then a noise texture node acts as a damage mask, and that gets fed into a set position node, which applies the noise as displacement onto the mesh. And then the other branch um, feeds from the group input into a mesh to volume node, and that converts the mesh into a voxel grid, and then that voxel grid is fed into a volume to mesh node, which kind of creates a chipped structure. Um, this setup, this upper branch setup is similar to what the remesh modifier does. Um, just kind of helps create cleaner geometry for the model. And then both of those branches get fed into a mesh boolean intersecting mesh boolean node that combines the voxel and displaced versions of the meshes into a single model. But yeah, so I just added it to this break. It didn't, or basic rectangle thing, and didn't really change much, and it added some nice variation to it. But I'll do it again and change some of the values so you can kind of see what the different values do. So if you wanted more of like a rock, you can tone down this edge softness and kind of becomes more spherical. But if you wanted to increase that and just add small little baby chips, then you can also do that. The noise scale parameter kind of here, I'll move this down a little bit so you can see better. The lower the noise scale parameter is, the smoother the chips kind of become. And then the higher it is, the more rough and jagged they become. And then the intensity slider does something similar to the edge softness, but kind of in a different way. Um, and then the seed obviously is just kind of random changes um, to the noise texture and gives you a different appearance of the cracks. But yeah, that's pretty much all that my tool does. Thank you for watching.